Hey guys, what's up? It is week 402, and right off the bat, I have to kind of just put a little RIP for David Lynch. He was one of these kind of, infamous cult filmmakers, beloved by almost every cinephile. Even if they didn't love his films, he was such a powerful voice, a figure that everyone recognized immediately, changed kind of the landscape of cult cinema and cinema in general. He was one of these people that he was older, he was getting older, and he just had like this immortal kind of quality about him. Like you never think of somebody's death like that. It's like, oh, a cinema god's dead. It's just kind of strange. Usually, you're so used to death, and a lot of people you don't know dying and everything like that. Even if you respected them or loved their work, and you're just like, oh, that sucks, bummer. And I was just kind of taken back. I was like, wow, that's weird. It was like it was just kind of a little punch to the gut. You're like, wow, that's crazy. It's just just a kind of shifting of time. You always expect to get another work from the filmmaker and everything like that. From Eraserhead was my first I think film I saw by him. I kind of was taken in. Just one of the weirdest things I ever seen at the time. Amazing. It became kind of a favorite. And of course, Blue Velvet is hard to beat. And he has such good weird films, and Mulholland Drive is excellent. Lost Highway, Wild at Heart, Twin Peaks. So there's lots of stuff to like about David Lynch. Elephant Man, classic. But R.I.P. David Lynch, one of the all-time greats. Let's hop into the reviews. The first one is from Radiance Films. This is 1972, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 1972, directed by Marco Bellocchio. And he directed a movie called Fist in the Pocket, which I covered, which is a great family drama with Lou Castle in it, who pops up in some of the Alberto Lenzi thrillers. But this one is the Slap the Monster on page 1. And I just talked about this last week, I believe, where I was talking about Italy and their political thrillers. Amongst the cult horror film fans, which I am, I love my genre cinema. You always focus on Italy for like 3 or 4 different kind of genres, whether it's, the post-apocalyptic ripoffs, the horror films, the cannibal films, the westerns, Eurocrime, all that kind of stuff. No, Plizietezze, so say, I'm not talking about Europe, I'm talking about Italy. But they had a really amazing bunch of political thrillers in the 60s and 70s. Citizen Above Suspicion, all these kind of films like that, The Police Commissioner, what was that one? The Case is Closed, Forget It. All these great films that had this political nature to them, and this one here is no different. Slap the Monster on page 1. So this stars Gian Maria Volante, who is a pretty iconic Italian actor, had a lot of power at the time, a lot of screen presence. He's in A Bullet for a General, but he's also in A Citizen Above Suspicion. But I think most people, Americanized Western audience, will know him for his 2 roles in the Sergio Leone spaghetti westerns, For a Few Dollars More and Fistful of Dollars, where, For a Few Dollars More, he's got the iconic stopwatch. Just one of the best baddies of all time. He's really great in this, and he is basically the leader of a conservative newspaper. And what happens is there's political turmoil. The Years of Lead is happening. 60s through the 80s, a lot of political turmoil. And at the beginning, you see this kind of shot of cameras going through all these banners, and there's just so many different banners, and you're like, okay, it's like Socialist Christian, Socialist Democratic Party, just tons and tons and tons. The Communist Party, there's dozens of them, and there's all these political factions, and there's a lot of these extreme groups out there at this time, left and right radicalization and terrorist groups. At one point, the president of Italy was killed by one of these terrorist groups. So it's really, heavy-duty kind of stuff. The political turmoil is insane. Now, we're, as Western viewer, I'm looking through this through a film lens. So to say how true it is or how accurate everything is portrayed is, it is what it is. I'm just taking it at a certain face value that they tell me. But that doesn't make the film any less interesting than what it is. And I think this is a highly interesting movie. I was captivated. And a fairly short runtime, 87 minutes long, which is kind of short for a political kind of thriller. And this one just had me right away. So in the very beginning of the film, we kind of meet Volante, and you don't really know much about him. The paper and everything like that turns to be like this conservative paper, anti-communist paper, and they do their headlines a little subtle, not necessarily like in your face, but you get the idea just from their headlines and everything like that. And there's this great scene where there's a new reporter, and Volante's talking to him, and it says, "See how you have this written? You should write it like this and change this," and all these kind of little touches and everything like that. And I thought that was just a kind of a genius way to show the kind of manipulation of headlines and newspapers and all that shit, which most certainly they do. They used to be a little better at hiding it. Now I don't think the news hides any of their intentions. It's not really biased. Maybe it never was, but I think everybody's just kind of acting nowadays with their ass hanging out. It's just kind of everybody, they're showing their ass, everybody. And it's just that from everywhere, so it's just like kind of crazy to see like, hey, they used to have some sort of finesse to be like kind of political in their newspaper and media kind of stuff like that. But it's really interesting to watch how they turn and twist and things. And at first, you understand where they're at, but you don't think they're as dark or deceitful as it actually is, So you learn that there's been like a horrible rape of a young schoolgirl, and she was killed. And they start to lean towards blaming this on some sort of left-wing kind of radicals, is what they call them, and whatnot. And as it goes down, you start to figure out down the rabbit hole how they're kind of altering things. And John Steiner is in here, and he's kind of the guy who owns the paper, and he's pulling the strings, and they're all working together to try to wait till after an election, all these kind of things like that. And there's also a religious kind of thing in here as well, when you realize that there's this kind of character and everything like that who is obsessed with the murder victim, and that opens your eyes on a lot of things. And it brings up that whole idea that a lot of the people, they look at women as one of two things, right? They're either angels and saints and virginal Marys, all that kind of stuff like that, or they're dirty, whatever. And it's just that kind of weird kind of thing in here where like the Catholicism in these movies is portraying it in this one. And I thought that was a nice touch too. Just touching some buttons here, very political. Now, I found it interesting on the special features that you have Alex Cox talking about the movie, and he kind of mentions, talking about a little bit of hypocrisy today and stuff like that in the papers, and Steiner even talking about it. The political movies weren't necessarily as accurate as some people may think, and the interview with the director was mostly the most eye-opening, because the director, you think, he must have directed Fist in the Pocket and some other movies, so this guy must have been on this movie from day one. He must have been gung-ho about it. No, he was a replacement director, because Volante was having trouble with the director, and they would butt heads, so they got rid of that director, and they brought him in. So he mentions working with Volante, and they had a good, relationship, but you kind of get the idea that, you didn't question it. Volante was not going to be really directed. Stage directed maybe, but not, hey, why don't you portray it like this? And he just kind of was like, no. Just not the easiest actor to work with, but one of the best. So sometimes that comes with the territory. Overall, I love this film. I think it's a great film. The kind of end shot of the trash being swept away in the canal and just pushed through and everything like that kind of resonates a little bit, or is impactful. Just a great film. Overall, looks fantastic too. This is one of these movies that when you're going crazy about the cult films and all the horror films and stuff like I am. There's so many great films from other countries that are being swept under the rug or just missed. And I'm sure that cinephiles love these movies. A lot of people that are obsessed with world cinema are more versed into stuff that's not just the horror and cult. But I broaden my horizons. I always feel like you need to constantly broaden your horizons when it comes to cinema, because the more you learn about other cinema, the better you look at the cinema that you know and love. And then your thing becomes bigger as you get older. Your umbrella. At first, most people get sucked into zombie films from Italy. I loved Romero, so now I'm watching Zombie. And then before long, you're like, I'll give a couple of his other ones a spin. Some Gialli. And then before long, you're watching political thrillers because they have some of that. So you start to learn and adapt and love more and different things, as you should. You should never stop learning. That's what I try to do as a cinephile and film fan and everything like that. And this kind of stuff, Radiant Films has always kind of brought broadening my horizons, or picking up these movies from big directors or, big countries that we all love in genre cinema, and just putting some spotlight on them. I know they were doing some of the Seizan Suzuki movies that maybe had possibly been skipped and everything like that. But Slap the Monster on page 1. As far as the special features are concerned, we have archival interview with the director, newly filmed interview with critic and author Mario Sesti, appreciation by filmmaker Alex Cox, and subtitles, of course. We also have a nice little booklet in here. Great opening, too, to kind of set the stage as you would let you know the world that you are in. The latte on the cover there. So, yeah, I would recommend it. Good stuff. Actually, really good. Okay, next up, to be completely different from the last film, we have Feed by Brent Leonard. Now, this is from Unearthing Films, and this was made in 2005. And you know what? Surprisingly, a lot of times, films from that time, I wasn't too enthused with growing up through it. I didn't particularly care for the look of it. When I look back on them, I'm kind of just like, that's not really for me. Feed, though, I have kind of a history with. I had the old Danger After Dark DVD and watched it and probably reviewed it, talked about it on some other podcasts and everything like that. And Brent Leonard is from Toledo, so that's where I'm from, born and raised, and this film takes place in Toledo, although it is clearly shot in Australia, as most of the film is. I think all of the film is, but there were some references to Toledo. I think Sylvania, Airport Highway, those things like that. So this director did, obviously, see up the top there, he did Lawnmower Man, Virtuosity, Man Thing, but he also did a really fun movie from the late 80s, 89, I believe, called The Dead Pit, which is enjoyable. Virtuosity, I always felt was underrated. A movie, early performance by Russell Crowe, Denzel Washington, fun, sci-fi, techno thriller thing, but a little bit crazier than you would expect. So Feed, oh boy, this is a really wild, weird movie. It essentially follows these Interpol kind of detectives that stumble on these kind of they're going down the rabbit hole of like fetishes gone to hell, people exploiting people, killing people through their fetishes and everything like that. They actually open the film up with our lead guy here, who's more of a tech guy, actually on set, like going down with the other agents in Germany and discovering the cannibal killer, which the movie Cannibal was based on by Marion Dora. And some other films. Dark Grim Love was another one that was a little more tame than the Marion Dora movie, of course, but it's a really infamous case about two homosexual men, one of which who wants to be eaten, and is exactly what happened. This man ate this other man, and consenting adults eating each other. Very crazy, weird case. So that's where the opening is kind of reminiscent of. So that's kind of sets the stage for what's going to happen. So our lead guy here, he has a very kind of strange relationship with this woman where they have rough sex, and he seems to have a lot of psychological issues that stem back from him being a child and maybe physical, abuse and these kind of things like that. And he probably doesn't have the best look of women, unfortunately. So he starts to go down this rabbit hole, and he discovers this whole world of feeders and gainers, where essentially what happens is it's a sexual kind of fetish where women usually are fed to ridiculous lengths to where they're unhealthy, and they kind of worship them by feeding them, and it's this kind of strange thing. And our lead guy here, his name is what? Alex? The actor's name is Alex McLaughlin. Is that his name? I don't want to leave his name out. He's an actor I've seen in a couple things, but his name, O'Loughlin, sorry, and Patrick Thomas are the two main, actors in here. And they both do a really good job, so I should say that. They're dedicated performances here. And there's an element of dark comedy to this that I found much funnier years ago, and now maybe my stomach is just a little bit more tender on the stuff, but it's really fucking disgusting. So this guy is the feeder, and he has this woman that he records, and our Interpol detective starts to realize, man, this doesn't really seem right. There's something off here, and he realizes that this guy is actually feeding these women to die, and people are taking bets on it, all that kind of stuff like that. So he ends up leaving Australia without real authority, coming to Toledo, Ohio to figure out how this guy operates, and gets kind of pulled into this, and they start playing head games with each other, and it gets really nasty and messed up, and you kind of you meet this kind of the main gainer here, and she does a really good performance. She's in bed the whole movie with a fake suit on and being fed all these things. It gets really dark and really nasty about, there's some forced cannibalism in here, and oh man, just a lot of really nasty stuff with boiled fat and stuff that's going on, and it definitely earns its place on the Unearthed line in terms of disgust and craziness and wild and weird shit. Overall, Feed is an interesting look, an interesting film by a director that I think is a little underappreciated. I remember watching Man Thing and didn't love it, but Lawnmower Man's such a distant memory in my mind, but I think Virtuosity, definitely underrated film. Always loved it. And I think that Dead Pit is definitely worth a look. And I think Feed is worth a look if you're interested in this kind of stuff. These kind of wild, extreme kind of techno thriller movies that have a dark comedy streak or also a mean streak in there. I like the ending. I think the ending works. I don't think the alternative ending works, but that's why it's not the ending, I guess. Now, there's been multiple versions of this, and I feel like watching this version, which was about 100 minutes or so, I feel like there's more to it. I don't know if the DVD was the same version, but it really doesn't feel like it. Now, I don't know 100%. I should have probably dug out my old DVD and double-checked. I meant to do that, but I obviously slipped my mind. But yeah, as far as the special features are concerned, the commentary by director, deleted scenes, and there's plenty of them. 20 minutes, and there's alternate scenes, which is like 20 minutes. So you could basically make a whole entire another movie out of here. Then we have outtakes, final day interview with director Brent Leonard, interviews with Alex O'Loughlin, Jack Thompson, and producer Melissa Buford. Feed in Philadelphia, North American featurette, behind the scenes footage, infomercial, photo gallery, original theatrical trailer, region locked A, 101 minutes, 5.1 mix and 2-point mix. So surround sound was pretty good on this one. I do want to mention that it does have kind of some I wouldn't even say experimental editing. The film was shot on a high def camera that was pretty popular at the time. The director says the same camera that was used for Phantom Menace, but if you even look at it like a couple years down, it was kind of shitty, and that kind of high def camera at the time aged very poorly. Even if you look at stuff like 28 Days Later and Red Sun Tower, they were great cameras at the time. Unfortunately, they don't hold up, so they date the film. But he mentions the look of it, kind of looking like you're looking into it through like some sort of like weird, I guess like computer screen or something along those lines. Can't remember exactly the wordage here. I'm not too thrilled with the editing myself, but that is more my own personal bias against a lot of the editing from the early 2000s, the fast cuts, the weird takes and stuff like that. It just always kind of made me nauseated, and when I was growing up at that time, there was a big backlash against editing. And some of the movies I do like that in spite of it, but other times, I just can't get over it. This one I still end up liking. And enjoy, but it does kind of, it rubs me a little wrong. I mean, like something like Dance of the Damned, the Tobe Hooper Masters of War episode, is unwatchable due to the editing for me. And then something along the lines of, House of a Thousand Corpses, I don't mind it. That weird kind of editing style. But there's also some really great editing in House of a Thousand Corpses. It's a mixture for me. And I should lump that one in there. I think that one has a little bit more older kind of techniques than a lot of the other ones. But, Feed, worth checking out if you're interested in the grotesque, weird, possible fetish things. They did make sure that they said that they did not want to demonize or condemn the people for their fetishes, but they're just telling the story of the film. So that is Feed from Unearthed Films. Okay, next up, we're going to talk a little bit about the Primevals again, the 3-disc Blu-ray collection. Now, you're like, Dave, you already covered the Primevals from Full Moon. They put out a standard disc, which is in here. Their original standard disc that came out quite some months ago. And this is it right here, the 91-minute version of Primevals. And I thought it was a pretty enjoyable, cool, lost film rediscovered, right? So I was kind of disappointed, though. I was like, well, Umbrella and the other countries are getting all this deluxe information about the movie. And, like, the behind-the-scenes story of the Primevals is kind of the coolest thing about the movie. So I'm like, shit, man, I want to see that stuff. So when Full Moon, they were going to release some other things with it, this box set. And I was like, all right, very cool. So first up, we have the Primevals, the David Allen cut of the film. Yeah, so this one is 7 minutes longer, in my understanding. And rewatching it, I felt like it flowed better. And now I don't know if it just had some time away from the movie and kind of understand what it is. Now, The Primevals was a movie that David Allen was trying to make for years. David Allen was a stop-motion animator, did a lot of special effects, and he unfortunately died before the movie could ever be completed. They shot a lot of the stuff, and they didn't ever have time to put the stop-motion in, and he died. It was very costly and everything, so they didn't do that stuff. Charlie Band kind of realized that he wanted to release this film. They went ahead and did the stop-motion and finished the movie and released it. Now, this David Allen version is is basically the version I think that he wanted. Now, they couldn't do all the stop motion effects, so the 91-minute version is the completed version. This is kind of a semi-uncompleted version of the film. It's 98 minutes. There's some like literally hand-drawn animation that they put in for scenes that are missing. We still have music and everything like that. Almost essentially like a hybrid of a work print film and the other version of the film. So, saying that, you have to get used to that. I adapted to it fairly quick without any complaints. The story is basically what we have here is an abominable snowman is found in kind of, I don't know the actual kind of area and whatnot. Definitely an Arctic kind of climate. And this person, a bunch of people are killed with it. These kind of scientists go and get it and they put it on display. And they call a bunch of experts on the abominable snowman and all these things like that. Some of which were kind of told that they were idiots for their rules and everything like that for what they believed. So they kind of put an expedition together. We have, the main guy who always believed in it and wrote papers about it. We have the kind of older kind of, head of the department of the college. I can't think of her actual name. Ruth something. She's an actress that's in a slew of movies. I got to pull it up. I'm sorry, because I forgot her name last time, and I don't want to do that again. She's in tons of movies here. Why am I not seeing her name here? It's Ruth something along the lines. This is like pure, like, terrible. Right here. Well, anyways, she's an actress that pops up in Girls Night Out. Yeah, is it Girls Night Out? Yeah, great performance in that. Tons of movies. She's good in this. And we have kind of a couple other scientists involved and people, locals helping to figure it out because they want to attack this abominable snowman because at one point, it's killed members of their group and they're trying to find the other one. And we have this kind of old school, like, expert. This is a period piece, of course. I believe it is in the 50s, which makes a lot of sense because this is essentially a love letter to the Jules Verne kind of adventure films that we all are used to, Journey to the Center of the Earth or At Earth's Core. Those kind of movies where we've seen them done, where we have this adventure film. We go with this group of people, this ragtag group of people, and they have all these kind of crazy discoveries of dinosaurs or, ancient beings. And it also has kind of it's done in the full moon style, basically, grandiose full moon style, and this is a big full moon movie, you can tell. And then it has basically that little bit of In the Mountains of Madness by H.P. Lovecraft kind of storyline, which I thought was cool. I think the stop motion effects work really well. The animation in the Dave Allen version, just the pictures drawn in, I do enjoy them. I do like seeing the stuff that's missing. Although not a completed film, it's still pretty effective. So this group of people, they end up finding this kind of portal they go into, and it's a whole new lost world, right? Where it has dinosaurs, abominable snowmen, ape men, and it even has basically these lizard men that have kind of de-evolved into these like thuggish people that put them in gladiatorial games. And you learn that the abominable snowman has had brain surgery and he's actually a gentle creature, but he's forced to be violent. Very entertaining, very ambitious, and very endearing. Overall, I think that The Primevals is just kind of a movie that I wish it got finished in its time. The score is actually really good and really big and fits the movie. I really do wish The Primevals got released when Alan was alive. I wish that it got the respect, and I think it would have been a bigger deal, honestly. I think it would have been kind of a staple, like, hey, I don't know what to compare it to, like, because it's not a full moon kids movie, but it's not a hardcore full moon horror film in there. It's kind of that middle ground. It wouldn't be a Moonbeam, and if it was a Moonbeam, it would be the biggest goddamn Moonbeam movie they ever did, the best. But maybe that's the review. The best full Moonbeam movie of all time that didn't exist, but it's better than that. But Primevals, the Dave Allen version, entertaining. This box set's pretty cool. Nice to have them all in the same place. Next here, we're going to talk a little bit about Lost to Time, Unearthing the Primevals. And this is kind of what I was looking for when the original came out. I wanted kind of a documentary disc to have some of the backstory here. This is about 45 minutes long. It covers a lot of behind-the-scenes footage of Dave Allen, collaborators with him, friends that worked with him, all sorts of stuff like that, all talking about him, talking about the project, working on the project, all that kind of stuff that I was interested in. It's very informational, very interesting. It's directed by C. Courtney Joyner, who's a long kind of time full moon contributor. He wrote some of the scripts, he directed some of the movies. He wrote Class of 1984, which I absolutely love. It's directed by Daniel Griffin. Sorry about that. Written by C. Courtney Joyner. I want to get that right. Sorry, because I love C. Courtney Joyner's work. I want to make sure I give him his props. So he's wrote it. He probably wrote all of the introduction stuff, the narration stuff that is actually spoken by Jeffrey Combs, which is the perfect narrator. 5 seconds in, I was like, that's Jeffrey Combs' voice, which is an unforgettable voice, an unforgettable presence. Worked with David Allen. I just like, this is kind of a love letter to his work, a love letter to this kind of this Primevals, a film that never got finished, and a look behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff like that. Charlie Band's in here. So just, I know it's not a long review, but it definitely deserves its own spot in here. But anyways, if you do want to buy this set, I would recommend it. The guy has a tremendous body of work. And Gone Too Soon, good work. And these are the kind of guys that people should champion too often. And I don't mean this as a negative, because I am very guilty of it. People champion the directors and they forget a lot of the other people involved with movies. But David Allen, although he did direct films himself, but yeah, he is a great special effects artist and stuff. Kind of one of a kind on that. A big driving force in Full Moon. And is he kind of the guy that they kind of made the force, you know what I mean? Like, hey, I'll do these special effects for you on these movies if you let me direct some movies, things like that. But no, just a really cool box set. Nice to have, a completed little box set here instead of just the kind of single disc, which I was a little disappointed with, but nice to see this big box set coming out. The Primeval set. Okay, now we're gonna dive into this little box set here. It's not really like a box set, but it's got 4 movies on here. Horrible History, 4 historical epics by Chang, who is a legendary Shaw Brothers director. Now we're gonna cover all 4 here. We're gonna do the first 2. The first one is Marco Polo, aka The Four Assassins. So this one here, I had not known too much about, and to be honest, I don't know all that much about Marco Polo except the little game we used to play in the pool. That is obviously my fault, but the commentary with it's Arnie Venema and Michael Leder really helps you kind of learn. Leader kind of makes you learn about Marco Polo a bit. It stars Richard Harrison. I want to make sure that's right. Richard Harrison. Yeah. Recently, I think, unfortunately, his house had burned down in those California fires. He's in a lot of B movies, a lot of stuff, a couple big movies, but he kind of spent his career kind of popping up in a lot of strange films like this one. This has Alexander Fushang in here. Gordon Liu makes an appearance. So, yeah. Shang-Chi was, like I said, an infamous Shaw Brothers director, had a lot of violence in his films, always had a focus on male characters, never really had many female characters in there, kind of a hiddenly out kind of secret that he was a homosexual, and he always said weird comments about, we need to bring strong men in the films and things like that. He was all over the Shaw Brothers set one, and he's done some great films. Recommend checking those out. But this one here, Marco Polo, kind of a big epic film. And so here's the plot here. Basically, I believe it's the Mongolians with history, or Manchurians, Mongolians. Well, Marco Polo is working for them, and what happens is these 2 badass assassins come in and try to take out the head honcho and everything like that. One of them kind of escapes and runs to and tells his wife as he's dying, "Please go get my 4 brothers. There was 5 of us, but now there's only 4. Tell them that they need to avenge me and kill the guy in charge," and everything like that. So that we bring in these kind of 4 like travelers, and they're supposed to go to like this monk kind of palace temple and learn these kind of ancient secrets and everything like that. So a big chunk of the movie is these 4 guys learning these ancient techniques. One jumping out of a puddle, one breaking rocks, one what is the other one? One just taking damage so he can't be stabbed. And they learn all these kind of special techniques and everything along those lines. And the monks are supposed to hide them and teach them and all these things like that. Marco Polo is sent to try to figure out if these bad guys are hiding there because they are aware of them. Not bad guys. I shouldn't call bad guys because they're the good guys of the film. They're protagonists of the film. So Marco Polo, I was like, where's his allegiance going to lie? And of course, he kind of starts to learn a little bit, and he starts to kind of bend where he fits and everything like that. And what we're going to have is this kind of big giant fight scene. The bad guys, the 3 kind of main henchmen, are all kind of introduced in the film as like a competition to be the 3 toughest the 3 strongest guys in their country. Like I said, one's Gordon Liu. It looks like he's wearing a wig because I've never seen a guy with fucking hair in any movies. But they basically learn, and they all have these special styles and everything like that. So we're obviously going to have these 4 guys fight these 3 guys, and I'll learn all these styles. And we have this big, giant, bloody, epic battle at the end, which is worth the price of admission. The acting's fairly solid. The fight scenes are pretty good. Not Shang-Chi's best work, but pretty good nonetheless. As far as the special features are concerned, I think the only thing on there is audio commentary by Mike Leder and Arnie Venema. So, yeah, and that was interesting. Like I said, they talk about the history of the film and the people in the the movie. Venema did a great special feature where he broke down like a soccer team that played in Hong Kong with all the big actors. It just did really good work. So these two are always paired up, and I think they work well together. I think the commentary is very informative, and I think the movie's pretty solid. Looks really good too. I do think that I don't remember if this one was in English as well. Sometimes you forget. I watch a lot of these in English because I feel like that's how it is. But it is original mono tracks, optional English subtitles. But I can't remember if it is English. I don't think it is. But that is Marco Polo, aka Four Assassins. Okay, the next one in the horrible history set is The Pirate, 1973, starring Tai Lung and David Chang, both of which who have worked with Shang-Chi. I think David Chang is in like a bunch of his movies, a lot. So The Pirate is another historical film, and this one is a wild one. A bunch of familiar faces here, and what happens is we have this pirate who is basically being chased down by like this corrupt government. There's one official who is a good guy. He is true. He wants to find the truth behind things and do the right thing, and that's David Chang. Tai Lung is the leader of the pirates, and he goes to shore for, I can't remember exactly the reason, to repair his boat to get out of there. There's also kind of another pirate who is always like this big brooding thug in the films. He does a really good job. He's in tons of these Shaw Brother movies. He's in Confessions of a Chinese Courtesan and stuff like this. Tons of them. But essentially what happens is Tai Lung and David Chang start to kind of become on each other's radar, and a lot of politics and political shit starts to go through of allegiances, and there's corrupt officials figuring all this out. And to be honest, for a big chunk of this film, it is a little down. It's not the most exciting stuff here. A lot of it is, politics and intermingle, all this kind of stuff like that, which is not the easiest or not the funnest thing to pay attention to when you pop in like a kung fu kind of style movie, if that's what you expect to see. You shouldn't hold that against the movie. It is interesting, and Tai Lung is really good, and really good performance him. But the movie builds up all to this giant battle with all these characters that have been well established and introduced, and they all have their like moments and everything like that. So it's a fairly long movie. So you like spend all the time with the characters and everything like that. To the one of the coolest battles I've seen. It'll definitely make you kind of your eyes pop in your head and be like, oh shit, man. So the ending is this amazing fight scene in the water. With Tai Lung and everybody else, and all the characters right there are either killed or they have their end, and was really entertained by that. It gets bloody, it's just well done, and see characters fight in like shallow water in the waves by the ocean is just something that I don't think I've seen too much, but it's pretty epic and amazing, and I just thought it was absolutely worth watching just for that scene alone. Tai Lung, I've grown to really enjoy his performances, but there's a little historical note at the end of the film, what happens to the characters. So, I guess as far as it is as a historical film is concerned, it's vastly entertaining. Not that all historical films are not entertaining, they are, but a lot of them are. But, this one I liked. I didn't love it, but The Pirate, we're checking out, especially for that end amazing fight scene. As far as the special features are concerned, we have audio commentary by Frank Jin and Michael Worth. I like them. They, they counter each other's very well. Michael Worth is more like soft-spoken. Frank Jin is just a fountain of information, but I'm not saying that. They just both work really well together, and they both seem like really genuinely great guys. Good commentary as well. Actually, listening to the commentary helped me appreciate the movie a little bit more. Not like it's bad or anything. It's good. It's just, I think I preferred Four Assassins so far on this set, but, it's not a competition. But still, 4 movies, I think, in this set that are lessly seen by Chang-Chi. But the other 2 are Boxer Rebellion and Four Riders. Look forward to checking those out next week. Okay, next up here is one from 1974. It is Vinegar Syndrome, a 4K. It is The Devil Times 5, and I've seen this trailer 460,000 times. The Devil Times 5 leaves no one alive, and I bought this thing on DVD, on Blu-ray a couple times, and now finally 4K. So this is one of the most infamous killer kids movies of all time, and I had never seen it. So I was like, you know what? It's time to watch a couple movies that I've never seen. I bought a bunch of times. So I was like, I'm popping in 1974 Devil Times 5. Might be 75, but I think it's 74. And I must say that I love this thing. Man, this thing was great. Just refreshing. So, the very beginning, we see this van crash. The driver's hurt, and we have these 5 kids get out. All sorts of different kids. One kid is obsessed with the military. One kid is just kind of a bossy. Eventually, you find out likes to dress in dresses and things like that, which is obviously going to upset some people because they're, people are like, are they saying that this person identifies as a woman and they have mental illness, but whatever, I could see that. But it's 1974, so come on, guys. Then we also have, one who's dressed as a nun, which I absolutely love. We have one that loves fires, and then we have the little kind of girl who's just tiny and just like kind of evil but fun. So these 5 kids are kind of wandering through the snow. We kind of realize they're not quite right away, and they're basically isolated area. So they find this cabin. At the time, this cabin is basically inhabited by a group of people. You're never really clear exactly how they're connected. We have this old doctor, Papa Doc, who is a very angry, stubborn man, famous kind of actor. I believe they say he's in what's the show? Oh man, Dukes of Hazzard, if I'm not mistaken. He's excellent in this movie. He's got that mean demeanor. I love this performance. Then we have his daughter, who is married to another guy who's really, I can't think of this actor's name, but he's in a handful of things ever. A great performance by him. We have Papa Doc's young wife, who's trying to screw everybody in sight. We have a guy who works for Papa Doc, who's always being pushed around, and his wife, who's an alcoholic. And we have a handyman who's a bit slow. So these are the 7 people in this kind of cabin. They get stranded out here because of the snow. And we kind of learn a lot about them. We spend time with them. We build these characters. We know how they are. They feel like real people. You like most of them or are interested in most of them. There's a good cat fight right in the beginning, which I thought was fun. And just, I really enjoyed the character development of all of them. And when you enter the kids into the equation, of course we learn that they're killer kids because they kill somebody right away. And that scene, the first kill, I was like, this is edited really poorly. I started getting signs like this is a non-completed film. This is something cobbled together and just not very good. And I was getting a little worried. I was like, nah, maybe I made the right choice on not watching this one for so long. But after that, I was completely invested with how the characters started to develop. There is a time here when people start to die, and one character has time to reflect, and she's talking about it, and she's been drinking and all these kind of things like that. And the other guy's trying to comfort her, and it's just a really touching moment. I was like, this is actually like kind of good 70s filmmaking to stop and like, kind of just feel what's happening, feel the deaths, and start to get worried. I love how Papa Doc and the other guy in here interact when they find out shit has happened, and they're like, I don't know, maybe we should be a little quiet. And it just feels realistic enough that I buy everything in the movie. I love the kids. The kids are creepy. Leif Garrett is the lead kid, and he would go on to be a heartthrob, and he's got a real creepy demeanor. There's a scene where he plays chess, and he loses, and he completely flips out, and you're just like, yeah, man, that's right. But I just love this movie, man. Great killer kids, great cast of characters, very 70s, looked really good in 4K. We have a Blu-ray with a bunch of features on it as well. We have 2 commentaries, which are on both the 4K and the Blu-ray. Hysterica Continues, of course, an archival commentary track with actress Joan McCall, Dawn Lynn, producer Michael Blowitz, and uncredited co-director David Sheldon, moderated by Darren Gross. And on the Blu-ray, we have Puppeteering, an interview with second assistant director Walter Dominguez, Daddy's Home, an interview with Bruce Wank, son of executive producer Jordan M. Wank, Holiday from Hell, interview with Nightmare USA author Stephen Thrower, archival featurette comprising interviews with actor Tier Tuner, Joan McCall, Dawn Lynn, producer Michael Blowitz, and co-writer David Shelton. Bonus archival interviews, theatrical trailer, alternative Devil Times 5 card, region free on the 4K, of course, and I think the Blu-ray. So yeah, we're good. Region free on the 4K should be a thing. I think some places are starting to lock them, unfortunately, but I think the Blu-ray is region free as well. Devil Times 5, great cover art too. We don't got the little girl on here. We're missing the little one, and she's got some great lines in here. It's like where she calls the piranhas babies. She's like, oh, they're babies. But anyways, great movie. The Nun is awesome. The creepy Nun is awesome. Leif Garrett's awesome. Great movie. I recommend checking out The Devil Times 5 if you need your fix of 70s horror. This one that I put off for so long, and I need to start just picking out movies that I've put off for too long for some reason, because I loved it. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Okay, next one. Here's another one that I put off for years. I think I had to import DVD from the UK here. This is 1989 horror thriller. I think thriller first. Curfew. Yeah, so this is kind of a weird mix here. In parts, it reminds me of the 1990 movie Killer, where we have that kind of resurrected killer going around stalking people, kind of in the regional quality. And I don't know, this feels like a little independent, but not fully. But also also kind of has like a slasher-esque quality and like a escape prison thriller quality all mixed together here. So we have two brothers who are on death row. They kind of raped and killed this young 17-year-old girl. One of the brothers in Ray is definitely the controlling type, while Bobby is a little bit slower, a little bit kind of being manipulated, the whole situation. These two escape, and they have a lot of comedic back and forth with each other. Them singing their version of Dixieland was kind of fun. They kill everybody they come in contact with. Not always the most gratuitous kills, but they steal outfits, and they start picking off the people they feel responsible for them getting sent to prison. The doctor, the DA, the judge. And what happens is they end up at the DA's house, and they have the family captured, while the young daughter is out kind of past curfew hanging out with her friends, her new friends, which I don't think are really friends. Basically, one of the guys would be a rapist in a different situation but so essentially they all kind of intermingle and everything like that. And a lot of the movie is the two kind of antagonist killers kind of beating the family and torturing them a bit and things like that. But the first big chunk is them picking off a bunch of the people that they felt did them wrong or came in contact with them. At one point, like I said, it does turn into kind of a slasher-esque thing. Overall, Curfew is a pretty solid little thriller horror film. I enjoyed the performances. I think that overall it's very entertaining for a late 80s kind of movie of this. I would be pretty happy if I rented this and watched this on VHS or something along those lines. I had heard mostly bad things about it, but I don't really agree with it. I think it's pretty solid. I was very entertained with it. It looks pretty good too for a low budget kind of film from the late 80s. I think the performances, especially by the guy who plays Ray, is good. And I did get a little upset at the family at one point. Like they have this daughter come back in without warning her, but then they give a moment where the kind of mom explains, like, I should have done this, and you're like, okay, they acknowledged it. I can let it move on. I can move on from that. I'm not acknowledging that kind of shit always drives me crazy. But acknowledging that you made a mistake and you should have probably done better is something that I can get behind. But overall, Curfew is entertaining, a pretty decent movie. Special features, Mind Games interview with actor Wendell Wyman. It's pretty interesting. He talks about being a writer, talks about doing the character, talks about going up against actors that were more well established than him to get the role. Still scary. Interview with editor Carol Kravitz Arkanian, and the director, I think, has passed, newly scanned and restored in 2K from its 35 inner positive reversible cover artwork. The editor talks a little bit about the director and stuff like that, but this movie is pretty decent. This time you shouldn't come home. In by 10, dead by 12. That's a good tagline. Yeah, good stuff. Curfew. Next up, we have a good one here from 1989, directed by Lamberto Bava, originally for a 6-part miniseries on television. Then it was kind of just done as a one-off. It was supposed to be all about witches, but Bava is the only one that made a movie, and telling me this is a TV movie after watching this is very surprising how well made this is. This is Mask of Satan. This is a Severin Films release here. Now, obviously, you're saying Mask of Satan by Lamberto Bava. That sounds familiar. Of course it does, because the original title, or one of the titles, for his father, Mario Bava's 1960 movie Black Sunday, was Mask of Satan. Now, so this is a semi-remake version of the original by Mario Bava, and Lamberto Bava jokes in the special feature, says the movie didn't really get seen, or kind of got buried, maybe because it's my father's curse, he didn't like it. He jokes about it, but there's always that weird feeling of human beings drifting in between. I know that's not real, but hey, it could be real. It's kind of that whatever. I just don't know how to explain it, but it sure as hell is fun to kind of blame it on that, right? But Mask of Satan. So what we have here in the very opening of the film, it's not a period piece like the original in the opening. We have a group of 8 skiers. They're skiing, and I was like, okay, we're starting this different. It's never even been dubbed in English, so it was never released in English, only released in Italy on VHS, never on television or anything like that. And I always read bad reviews on this movie, negative reviews, watching it in this brightly amazing remastered version I'm looking at visually, and I'm thinking, man, I think I slept on Lamberto Bava a little bit. I love Demons 1. I love Demons 2. I like some of his other films, but they never really connected with me except the first 2 Demons films. Watching Delirium, which I liked, I'd never seen that. Watching Mask of Satan, I'm like, I'd seen Blade in the Dark and Macabre and stuff, but it's been years for Blade in the Dark and Blast Fighter and Devilfish. I've seen a lot of Bava movies, but watching this, just like, I see a lot of visual stuff in here that I saw in Demons. And I saw that he did a fantastic job in here. And I think I always felt like maybe Dario Argento's hand was a little heavy in Demons. a little heavier than Lamberto Bava's, and I think I'm just wrong there. And I think this movie proves it a little bit. Watching this, I just was really happy with the colors and everything like that. So basically, like I said, it was contemporary before I got distracted by myself. They fall in this hole when they're skiing, all 8 of them, and one of them's hurt, and they're kind of arguing and everything like that, and they find this body just lying there, and there's a mask on it, of course. And if you've ever seen Demons or the original, Black Sunday, don't fucking touch the mask. Of course, some idiot pulls the mask out. It's been nailed to this person's face, and right then shit starts to get weird. It crumbles in. One of the people dies. They get spiked with a giant icicle, and they kind of wander through these like catacombs, these crevices, and they find like this whole like structure. They end up in this tiny village, and there's only one guy there, a blind priest. Sounds very Italian, right? And he kind of tells them to come in, and he realizes something's wrong when almost the entire group of kids, besides a couple, Sabina and the main guy here, aren't affected. The other 5 that are still alive start to kind of act evil and chuckle and play pranks and just get really highly sexualized and everything like that. And it's obviously the mask of Satan, right? And we learn that this ancient witch that was killed, we do have the flashback, was Anubis, the god of the dead, or something along those lines. And we have a little bit of Vi here, the Russian film from, what was it, the early 60s, maybe 67 Vi was originally made, but we have that in here too. And I know that was based off a novel or a book, and I never knew the original Black Sunday had any basis on that Vi story, but according to Lamberto Bava, it did, which kind of blew my mind. This one, right away, I was like, this is a lot like Vi. Or V, however you want to pronounce it. I would say Vi with V-I-Y. Great movie, Sever put that out as well. Just pick it up. So I'm like, this is a lot like that. And I was like, okay. It's been a while since I watched Black Sunday. I think I'm due for a rewatch. So as it progresses, I'm just like, the colors, the lighting, the characters. Michele Soave is one of the kids. Another one of the kids in Sabina is one that pops up in a Tinto Brass movie. She also pops up in Paganini. She was at one point dating Klaus Kinski, she says in the features. So my heart to her, man. But so it just goes on, and it just like becomes this crazy, wild, vividly amazing looking film. The colors are great, and just the weird shit happening is really awesome. It also kind of plays with your mind. Kind of at night, the people become more possessed. Some come back from the dead. There's a really great scene here where they all the kids surround this confessional and it just kind of crumbles in on the priest. I was like, that is genius. That is like some Michele Soave church kind of style stuff here. Which I also find it very funny that the unofficial Demons series, right? The Demons is like La Casa and Zombie in Italy. We have this weird unofficial series going on here. Of course, we have the first 2 Demons, 1 and 2 by Lamberto Bava, and then Demons 3 is one of 3 pictures. I think there is Demons 3, The Ogre by Lamberto Bava, which is the TV movie, which I think that's Cauldron Films is putting out on the Blu-ray, and then we have Demons 3, Black Demons, aka Black Demons, directed by Alberto Lenzi, but the kind of semi-official Demons 3 is The Church by Michele Soave. And I think Demons 4 is The Sect by Michele Soave. And then Demons 5 is The Mask of Satan by Lamberto Bava. And then Demons 6 is the Luigi Cozzi film, which Severn also put out. What is this one called? Demon 6, Black something. I can't remember its name off the top of my head. Why am I going to forget this one? But I just made a Black Cat. It's actually called Black Cat. So there we go. Demon 6. And then Demon 7 is Della Morte Della More, or Della More Del Morte, Cemetery Man by Michele Soave. So that's the unofficial Demon series here, and this was the last one that I had never seen. Watching it, I just was really impressed with the filmmaking, the pacing, the story. It's based on Mask of Satan, Mario Bava's film, so of course the story's great. It's an all-time great, Italian horror film. But I just was happy with the updating. I thought they handled it really well. It takes place in a lot of snow, so it's like an Arctic kind of horror film. They use the snow to their advantage. I think it feels cold. I think it feels scary. I think it feels isolated. You feel trapped. It just works really fucking well, man. Kind of sexy and gross too. Great special effects by Sergio Stivoletti, who was Dario and of course, Suave, Michele Suave used for years. He's got a really great chicken demon thing. We have like kind of a redo or kind of their own kind of shriveled up boob thing here, reminding me of Night of the Demons, of course, with Linnea Quigley lipstick boob thing. But all that stuff in here, just great special effects too. And to be made for TV, I'm kind of blown away. It's better than made for TV. It's better than a lot of the Italian made for TV movies. Of course, you know how the Italian kind of film market changed and it went more to TV. But as far as the special features are concerned, we have the Curse of the Mask interview with director Lamberto Bava. Damn near 37 minutes, great stuff, interesting stuff. Una Americana Aroma, an Aroma interview with actress Mary Stoller. She talks about not loving horror films, kind of asking for more money on a Lenzi film. She does a great performance in this one as well, and Lamberto Bava does say she did. Sabina the Teenage Witch interview with actress Deborah Capragino. She talks about working with Kinski and Brass and Lamberto Bava and stuff like that. But highly recommended. Check this out. If you liked recent stuff, kind of like the Spider Labyrinth from Severed Films, then you need to check out Mask of Satan. If you like The Church by Michele Soave, you need to check out Mask of Satan. Is it as good as The Church as far as like budget and stuff? No. But it is damn good, The Mask of Satan. Check it out. All right, let's get into those 1982 movies. Now, I'm not going to do the whole long video. We only have a few for you. First one is a rewatch. I mean, I covered this for 1981, then the year changed, and I was not thrilled that I was going to rewatch this. Not because it's a horrible movie, but I'm so stupid that I was like, I just watched the last one. No, I don't do that. I'm going to rewatch it again. This is Piranha 2. The Spawning. Directed by James Cameron. This is his directorial debut, although the film was pretty much taken away from him and finished by Ovidio Assayas, who did movies like The Visitor and Madhouse from last year. So, good movies. I mean, Madhouse I love. He did a couple other ones. Tentacles. I've never watched The Visitor, but I love Madhouse. I like Tentacles. Should watch The Visitor. No, it's 1979 batshit crazy insanity, but Ovidio is a wild, weird director. You could kind of tell this is partially James Cameron, partially, a video. Cameron's obsessed with water, right? We see the Abyss, the Titanic, all that kind of shit right here. So this is maybe where it started. Cameron obviously had worked previously on the Corman Pictures designing stuff on like Galaxy of Terror, which is an Alien ripoff, which is fun that he would go on to direct Aliens. But, he kind of got to start directing this one. The special effects are by Gennaro De Rossi, from my understanding. It has Lance Henriksen in here, who was a longtime collaborator eventually of James Cameron, stuff like Aliens and Terminator, amongst, I think that's it. But, that kind of stuff here. So essentially the plot is as follows. We have a nice little kind of resort place. The piranhas are now in saltwater. Of course, they're mutations, and they can fucking fly here, which is insane. And people start to get picked off by the flying piranha. There's weird stuff in here where they have the autopsy, great special effects, and it comes out of the it's hiding in the person and it kills like the lady who was there overnight. Complete nonsense stuff. And we have basically a wife and her kid kind of struggling, and their estranged husband is Lance Henriksen, the local sheriff. And we have your typical Jaws plot here. We have this big whole like night ceremony that comes the spawning, right, where everybody's going to run out and catch all these kind of fish here, and they only come out one time a night, and everybody catches their fishes and eats it. It's all a big part of the resort, and we know this is leading up to the actual fucking Piranha 2 spawning, where all these flying fish are going to eat the guest. It's gory, it's silly, it's fucking stupid, but it's entertaining crap. It's horror on the waters. It's, like I said, it is ridiculous. It is kind of patched together at points. A little talky. I think that, maybe if this would have been completed by one director, it would be a little bit more entertaining. But overall, I like Piranha 2, The Spawning. I went over this before for 1981, but it's technically 1982, so I'm here. As far as the special features, we have 2K scan, new interviews with actor Ricky Paul Gordon, and special effects artist Brian Wade. But, movie of two kind of stories here. Executive produced Ovidio Assayas, directed by James Cameron, so they say. But this is 1981 on here, but I think it's 1982 technically. That is Piranha 2, The Spawning. Piranha. Yeah, that's two movies with piranhas in them this week. Yeah, cool. We're going to talk about a couple shorts here. The first short from 1982 is going to be The Dummy. This played, I think, a lot on cable at the time, and it's kind of infamous. It lives in people's head rent-free, kind of kinder trauma. But essentially, this movie's fairly quick. This husband's like, I'm leaving for work. This dummy that he owns, she's like, how'd this dummy get out here? It's very subtle, very well done for a short. Very low budget, though. Very dated. A lot of people say, hey, man, this really was there and set the standard for, like, Child's Play. But, we have Trilogy of Terror. It's fine. It's a nice thing that obviously played in between other things on HBO and stuff late at night, would scare you. But now watching it, it's all right. It's just a kind of standard 7 minute short that you can make a movie on no budget, really. And it's effective, but it's not great. It is what it is, the dummy. Next here, as we're talking about shorts, I couldn't help but have to do this one. This is Vincent by Tim Burton. Disney movie with narration by Vincent Price, talking about this little boy, Vincent, who's obsessed with the morbid and the occult, obviously somebody based on probably Tim Burton and other people, whatnot, that grew up with this kind of stuff. But it's a poem, and it's spoken by Vincent Price, and he's very fun in it. It's just, the animation's adorable, it's cute, and I think that this really spoke to a lot of young people at the time and gave you an insight on Tim Burton's kind of mind and what he was going to do. Vincent's a really cute, fun short. I'd highly recommend it if you're a fan of old Tim Burton stuff, or just kind of looking at animation, or just hear Vincent Price. It's charming, it's beautiful, it's delightful. Vincent. Okay, we're going to talk about the Patreon pick here, and this is Lever to Heaven, 1945, starring Cordell White and, Tierney. Tierney, yeah. What is it, Gene Tierney? But yeah. So this is a classic film, beloved by many. It's on Criterion, so there you should know. This is Tyler who picked this one. I've never seen Lever to Heaven, but happy to watch any film. This is a drama, I'd say crime film, and this is really dark for what it is. So we have Cordell White, who was in Naked Prey. And reading the reviews, a lot of people are making fun of him, saying he looks like a talking mannequin or a dummy or anything like that. And I'm just like, oh, okay. He's a writer, and the way they introduce the two main characters here, Tierney, is great, because they're sitting there. I think that's Tierney. I'm not too familiar with a lot of old school Hollywood starlets and everything like that. So if I'm mistaken, please correct me on this. But so they meet on the train, and they're talking, and it's just a really fun kind of deal. It's that the whole gimmick, right, where she's reading the book and she doesn't like it, and he's on the back of the book and she's like, you look familiar, yada yada. Fun. They kind of, I guess you say, meet cute kind of deal. They end up kind of having to go to the same area. Her father had recently died. He obviously showing interest in her, like as in he wants to comfort her. She's engaged to Vincent Price, who is a politician, and she kind of immediately, after hanging out a couple days, maybe a couple weeks, springs the question on him that I'm getting married. Basically just says I'm getting married to Vincent Price or somebody else, to kind of push them away. But at the same time, Cordell White feels almost like trapped and stuck and obligated. He has a brother who is disabled, who's struggling to kind of get better and all that kind of thing like that. And that's kind of his life there. Cordell White decides to get married, and at first they seem to have this amazing, loving relationship. But our main character here, Cordell White starts to notice some weird things about how, our I guess you'd say, female protagonist or antagonist, I guess she's an antagonist, family treats her, or looks at her, how she treats her family. And she starts to kind of have these weird moments where she becomes completely obsessive and controlling, and wants, that person all for themselves. And we end up going in a lot of dark territories for 1945, where people are murdered, and it ends up having this kind of like bookend story where we learn that Cordell White has been in jail for 2 years. You're like, what happened? Did he snap? All these kind of things like that. And we do have kind of a nice ending at the very end. Of course, it's not it's not a film noir or something like that where it's incredibly dark, but it does have these dark moments in here. And I've never seen such a despicable. She's so despicable, but at the same time, you don't hate her at first. She's just really kind of mentally ill. Horribly mentally ill, but great performance. A lot of, like I said, it goes places that I didn't really expect. It's paced really well, and there's some great crime courtroom stuff in here by Vincent Price as the prosecutor, which I love seeing. Overall, this is a really good film. Really, like a lot of people think, oh, old movies they don't do anything. They're boring. They just don't have any. This movie has guts. It goes there. It just doesn't necessarily has all the subject stuff that a modern movie would have. It's dark touches, it's dark takes, all these kind of things like that. But it's just, it doesn't show everything. But the drowning scene is disturbing. It's aggravating. It's nerve-wracking, and it's very effective. I think that this one is really good, really well made. Obviously, Lever to Heaven would highly recommend. Again, the director is not someone I'm super familiar with. What was the one that I did watch? I did watch one of their films, and I remember really enjoying it. But this is not my strong point. The '40s films are not my strong point. But like I said, I'm learning every day. I'm more, like I said, into the genre of filmmaking. But these films are highly important, and every time I watch one, I always find something I love about it. And this one's no different. Great stuff. Based off a book. So I believe that's my understanding. But yeah, I probably should have done a little bit more research. Maybe I'll buy the Criterion and dive into it later down the line. But Leave Her to Heaven is the Patreon pick. Good stuff. All right, we're going to get some questions, comments, and concerns. Ken Coakley, this week I revisited Scorpion with Two Tails. The cast was a pretty good one. Paula Malco, Val Johnson, a brief appearance by John Saxon. The story, a bit similar to Manhattan Baby, was a change of pace from slashers wearing black gloves and black fedoras. The title does sound like a giallo. I wonder why Fabio Frizzi's music from City Living Dead was used instead of his new music. I agree. It's like some of it feels like cues from that, and they're like, is that a different cue from a different thing? I also watched Rampo Noir. While slow paced, the film made me feel uncomfortable. The scene in which the mirror artist uses wax and other substances to disfigure her was over the top. The mirror artist came across as a real scumbag. Indeed. I also watched Incubus because if I wanted to see if William Shatner could do a good job acting, the movie would be a good film to put in a drive-in bill with City of the Dead or Carnival of Souls, both great movies. Incubus had a soundtrack that was similar to Carnival of Souls. The use of mist and fog gave the film more eerie atmosphere. The scene where the young woman tries to go collect Shatner's soul, there was small mist making it look like small ghosts in the air. Nice. Would you call those Wisp of Willow? Beyond Sour Ground. Hey, Mrparka. It was indeed Joseph Zito that directed a 1970s movie called Abduction. I really wish someone would release the film as well as Blood Rage. In fact, I got excited when I saw it on the VHS website thinking it was a Zito film. We should also note that Abducted was also an alternate title for the Don Jones film School Girls in Chains, also known as Girls in Chains, right? I've always enjoyed seeing Dan Haggerty pop up in genre flicks, though. Hopefully Terrorvision will finally find releasable elements for Elves, and at the very least do a Blu-ray. I've never seen The Scorpion with Two Tails, so I'm glad you covered it for 82. Even if it was a cobbled-together TV movie, the Italian poster to film is relatively common for a vintage Italian movie poster. Yes, you say relatively common. Yeah, it looks like House by the Cemetery. So I imagine the film has a decent distribution in Italy at some point. Hopefully someone will do a documentary or featurette on an Italian made-for-TV, then release theatrically movies, because there seems to be a lot of them. I know Italian television is more permissive than the American television, but clearly hiring directors like Fulci and Lenzi to make TV movies backfired. Just imagine if a U.S. network hired John Carpenter or David Cronenberg to make TVs back in the late 80s. I wanted to ask you thoughts about the Night Films' upcoming Reanimator 4K release. Reanimator is my favorite movie, so I'll probably end up buying the limited edition, but I honestly don't feel great about spending $80 on one movie, especially when it's coming from a new and less established label. I've always encouraged people to buy what they want and speak with their dollars, and never feel as if you have to buy something because a real fan or collector would. However, since 4K will likely be the last physical format, I think some labels are currently testing the waters and trying to see if charging top dollar will be a sustainable business model for the future. Since you buy a lot of physical media, much like myself, I was wondering if you have an off-the-limit or cutoff when it comes to prices or editions of certain movies. Also, did you hear that Shout Factory recently acquired worldwide rights to Golden Princess Library and will be releasing all the unavailable John Woo films? I wish it was a better label than Shout, but I'm just excited to be able to watch and own all these neglected classic Hong Kong films. 100% agree about the Shout mentality. I'm just glad they're getting out there. I wish it was, Vinegar Syndrome or Severin or Arrow, but hey, Shout will do a good job on those, hopefully. I'm sure the 4Ks of Hunter and Hardboiled and The Killer will look great, hopefully. As far as price tag, there's certain labels I used to collect because I thought that they would put out mostly good stuff, but there is a cutoff line. I get a lot to review, so I don't buy everything, but, I buy a lot of stuff at the same time, and, like some of the sub-labels in Vinegar Syndrome I'll be collecting, and they'll put out a couple movies I don't like, and I'm like, I'm just going to have to pass on that one for the price point, there's just a couple, like, dramas from the 70s that don't really have that much of appeal to me, and I will pass on the price point, $30. I'm like, it's not for me. Room is limited eventually, right? You got a lifetime of collecting. You can't just constantly buy everything and unlimited money. So there's certain movies that there wouldn't be a price tag on if they released like a deluxe edition of Day of the Dead or something like that and it was $200. I'm like, I guess I'm spending $200. I wouldn't be happy, but I would most certainly do it without question. But something like Reanimator or Night Films released Invaders from Mars, the original 56 version or 54 version, or actually it might be 51 or 52. I can't remember. That's early though. It's not 51, 53 maybe. Invaders from Mars, they released that on 4K, and I remember that looking pretty good. It was a nice addition. So it's not like it's a company that doesn't have any, a track record. So they have one good release. I know they did another one too, but this was the big one when they 4K. So I think that they'll probably do a good job on Reanimator. I probably would buy it if I was my favorite movie. I love Reanimator, and down the line I probably will buy that 4K. I probably look for more of a standard edition. I don't need all the bells and whistles. I'm not the biggest fan of like booklet, I'm not booklets, but like giant packaging and stuff that's like gets in the way and stuff. Like this comes with the highlighter syringe. It's like I don't want it for $20 more, if that makes any sense. So maybe I'll just wait. Like the Hitcher had that big deluxe edition. I just bought the standard 4K, and I was like, I'm fine with that. I like the movie a lot, but I like the movie. I don't like the packaging of the. Yeah, I don't give a shit that much about it, but. A couple of movies I will spend, whatever. Not all of them. So you got to pick your battles, die on which hills you're going to die on, right? Martin VP, you put KFC and Fool's Parade on my watch list. Thanks, Dave. Those are both cool. Check them out. Mike Saw, loved Fool's Parade. Brother Martin wants to carry shoelaces in the store because tips wear out so fast. He's like, the tips. He's great in that part. Nick Moore from Belgium. After your enthused review and fiendishly entertaining trailer, I'm in a mood for some Italian. I'm checking the well out. A lot of people really like it. I'm not the only one. Anyone who's seen it seems to enjoy it. I hope that we don't lose any artists this year as we did 2024 because Tony Todd, Maggie Smith, Alan DeLon, John Amos, David Soul, Shelley Duvall, James Earl Jones, Shannon Doherty, Carl Weathers. The list goes on and on. So much talent lost. Hell, we just started off losing David Lynch, so we're not doing so good. But people die all the time, unfortunately. Questions. As you buy for Radiance Films, any chance you've seen Michael Reed's debut picture, The She-Beast, aka Revenge of the Blood Beast, starring Barbara Steele? If yes, did you like it? I get a lot of the Radiance films to review. That one you're talking about was UK only. So I do have that Blu-ray, though, from Rare Pictures, the Michael Reeves film. I've never actually watched that one by Barbara Steele, though I've wanted to for years, though. Why do you think so many of the home media distribution companies make their own content? Why do you think so many of the home media distribution companies make their own content, like, say, Epic Pictures? Well, you own the rights, you own all the streaming, and that's kind of where you're at there. If you have to license stuff, you got to pay a fee. There's a lot more complicated things about it that a lot more people know than me. What's your favorite Jack Ketchum adaptation? The Lost is pretty great. I love The Lost, and I think The Woman's pretty great. As far as Girl Next Door, don't necessarily love how it's adapted. I feel like there's some issues with it. Red, I feel like there's some issues with that. And one of the Offspring's okay. Offspring is an okay book. It's not bad, but the adaptation is just okay movie too. So it's definitely The Woman and the Lost are the top tier. Darling is okay, but it's not really an adaptation. It's based off the source. It's based off The Woman, which is an adaptation, but good movie, but nonetheless not quite the same thing. Ciao Bella, till next time, God willing. Indeed. And then we have Art Fertigrito. Glad you liked Fool's Parade. I knew you would. Happy I picked it. One of my childhood favorites. I was lucky enough to see it in theater. Yeah, it's great stuff. Thank you. Jack London. Michel Piccoli. Just happens to be one of the most important French actors of his generation. Thank you for that. Your show is great, though. Thank you, I appreciate it. I made a joke and said, words are not my thing. Mr. Mansion, you subscribed to Vinegar Syndrome this year? Yes, I did. Been doing it since the early days when porn was included. Love the partner labels and the Mussolini, the sub-label. I am not sure if it's a leany or just lean, like Messalin. Messalin? I'm a moron. With a lot of fucked up health problems, movies have always been my world. I was thinking that the real cheap, sleazy little budget stuff, like a lot of the Vinegar Syndrome SOB, really is freeing and comfort food, especially when sick. Love you, man. Been watching you since your long-haired on the bed days. Your outro still gives me nostalgic chills. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's funny because I know a lot of people probably started watching me when I was in my early 20s and they were probably in their early teens. So then as they grow up, they're like, this guy's a fucking idiot now. I'm 25. I don't need to have this 40-year-old guy, this damn near close to 40. Hopefully I've gotten better over the years and I grew with you guys. I didn't stay the same. Hopefully, if you're still watching. I appreciate that. I really do. Movies have always been an outlet for me. I think that it's just one constant is what I tell people. The things in my life change, but the films never do. You stay constant. You have to have a hobby, otherwise, you end up just... not that everybody that drinks does this, but a lot of people drink away their paychecks, drink away their life, and there's nothing wrong with drinking or having fun, but sometimes people just take it too far, and I just am a very compulsive, obsessive person. So I'm glad that I had a hobby, or otherwise I'd probably be dead. So yeah, Brian Gasler, how many movies would you say you watch a week, and how often do you go back to your favorites? For instance, I love the original Halloween, still watch it several times a year. I used to go back to my favorites all the time, don't have as much time anymore, but I probably watch 600 to 700 movies a year, so do the math on there, 52, whatever, anywhere from, I'd say 8 to 15 movies a week. FJ103 gives me thumbs up. Thank you. David Leather. Holy shit. Is the guy driving in Weak Spot Bruce Campbell's dad? No, I think it's Marty Adolph. Great actor. Never seen Weak Spot. Thanks. All thoughts are lies all the time. Live and die in LA. Still on my blind spot, right? I have a Blu-ray, but then they released the 4K. I'm like, I want to watch it in 4K because I hear it's great. Great freaking movie is what I understand. Way Up Dude, 1382. He gives me a wave. Gray, what is that? Grayry Nuza gives me a thumbs up. Thank you. Bad Brains. Rest in peace, David Lynch. Such a huge loss. Great video, Dave. Thank you. R.I.P. David Lynch, indeed. We're going to do the Patreon pick before we get into the update. People are like, but you didn't review Star Hunter and this movie. And it's like, well, if I don't review the movies after I draw them, it means I've already covered them on my channel. If that is wrong and you were drawn out, and you're like, you didn't, though. Message me. I'm pretty sure I did. But maybe I'm wrong. I'm not always right, if you guys have known, as somebody corrected me on how I say that. So, hey, 5 movies. Here we go. What do we got? First up, oh, that's wrong. That was a thing of somebody's list, which is not actually a movie. We have Last Girl Standing, John Wilhelm, 2015. Ooh, Tom Brooker, Rat Scratch Fever. Yeah, that's what is that director's name? I can't remember his name, but a handful of his movies. They're pretty cool stuff. We got 3 more coming out here. Nick Moore, Forgotten Scares, 2016. There we go. Such a bad habit to show everything. Like, I'm like, it's a Blu-ray. Jason Willard, Seized, with Atkins. I haven't seen a Scott Atkins in a long time. I know he always picked those, and they're always good stuff, so. And then last, Tom Brooker, Cosmopolis. Is that going to be the Francis Ford Coppola movie, or is that that's Megapolis? This is the Cronenberg movie, so there we go. No problem with those. That's some good picks, interesting picks. We're going to get into that update now, guys. All right, first up, the Severn Order Black Friday came. I talked about Mask of Satan already, so I'm not going to show it, but that was in this box as well. We have Hell of the Living Dead 4K by Bruno Mattei. Absolutely ridiculous 1980 classic crappy zombie movie that I've always adored. It is nonsense. I'm looking forward to watching it in 4K. Looks cool. Got a bunch of features on there, so awesome. And then we have Rats, Nights of Terror. Mid-80s, I think this one is, maybe 84, 83, I can't remember exactly when this one came out. Another Bruno Mattei nonsensical movie on 4K. It's been, I haven't watched this one nearly as much as 84 as I've watched, Hell of the Living Dead. But yeah, it's ridiculous, it's nonsense. Killer rats, Night of the Living Dead kind of style with rats. Hilarious ending. Then we have Eaten Alive by Umberto Lenzi, 1980 on 4K. This is a good one. Robert Kerman in here reuses footage from Mountain of the Cannibal God and Jungle Holocaust, of course. Covered this one on the show a bunch of times. Ivan Rasimov in there. Just good. Janet Argan. Good stuff. I love these kind of video nasties in these 80s, 70s Italian films, so I'm always going to upgrade. Then we have The Last Cannibal World, a.k.a. Jungle Holocaust by Ruggiero Deodato on 4K. Classic movie here that I've always adored. Always adored. That's a weird word to say for this 1977 sickie. But great movie. I like this one. Always have. Great lead performance in there. Isn't Ivan Rasimov in that one too? Next up we have Sergio Martino, Slave of the Cannibal God, a.k.a. Mountain of the Cannibal God, with Ursula Andress and Stacy Keach in it. Another 4K here. Worldwide 4K release here, debut. And then next up, we have Night Train Murders, 4K here, Aldo Lado, and it has a commentary by my buddies here, Art Ediger and Bruce Holchek, of course, right? That's very cool, who are on the show very often. This is a classic movie, and I must admit, this is one of the ones I've only seen part of. I know, right? Then we have Delicatessen, classic movie here, French film, very fun movie, comedy, dark, weird, by the director of Amelie and City of Lost Children, 4K of Delicatessen. It's a good movie, very good film. Seen it a few times, always enjoyed it. Then we have Antiviral by Brandon Cronenberg, IFC movie originally. Actually, the only Brandon Cronenberg movie I have not seen, but a 4K. Definitely willing to give this one a shot. I've bought the Blu-ray, of course. And then last, but certainly not least, we have my boy Jess Franco, a Blu-ray here of Thong Girls. That's right. Thong Girls, a beach party film just Franco style. So there's probably going to be a lot of, location shooting. But yeah, fun stuff here. But yeah, that is the update. Back to the video. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. And as always, have a good one.